folks, they are identical twins. Emily is on the piano, and Melissa is on the violin. They're 17 years old, and they've been playing music for more than half their lives. And they'll play selections from Schubert, Handel, Strauss, Mozart, Bach, Brian Crane, and Coldplay. So please welcome Emily and Melissa Goodrich. Before I introduce our moderator, I'd like to acknowledge our season sponsor, Microspec, the sponsor of this talk, RBC Wealth Management, and Rosalie's Garden for the flowers. We're also grateful to all of our community sponsors that are listed in your program. One of them, the 1833 Society, has a table in the parish hall. After the talk, you can go and find out more about them there. And we're grateful for all of you here and online for joining us today, and we appreciate all your support. We can't do it without you. Here in the church, you can leave your donations in the glass bowl in the front here or in the parish hall, and you can write any suggestions, critiques, improvements, complaints on the green card and put them in the glass bowls also. If you're watching online, you can leave those comments or questions on the chat. And now to our moderator. Eric Bowman is a social studies teacher at ConVal High School, but his service to this community goes far beyond that. For the past 11 years, he has led student exploration of what it means to have ethics, morals, values, authenticity, and compassion. Essentially, what does it mean to be a human in today's world that often seems so averse to humanity? Check out the Revolution Ethics Project at revolutionethics.org to see what he does. And Eric Bowman is also a volunteer firefighter. I met with Eric over a year ago to discuss our desire in the Lyceum Committee to have a young person speak here. And he was on board right away, and he came up with this topic: what does it mean to be an adolescent in 2026? He put out the word to the ConVal students, and these young women who you're about to hear answered the call. But today's program does not happen without Eric Bowman. Just like to say, teachers are often way underappreciated, and Eric Bowman is a teacher who deserves our appreciation. Let's welcome Eric Bowman and salute him for his service to our children, our young people, and our future.
Thank you, Satyaga. That was lovely. Thank you. Good morning. I am Eric Bowman, your moderator for today. It is my great pleasure to welcome you to the Monadnock Summer Lyceum with today's guest speakers, Hadley Bates, Ava Cronin, and Clara Wilsher. Following the presentation, our speakers will answer questions from the audience. Folks present in the church may write questions on the yellow card in the pews, and an usher will come and collect them. For those watching virtually, please submit your questions using the live chat section on YouTube. We encourage your feedback on today's program using the green card in your pew, and to join our mailing list and email list. Please drop the green card, in the glass bowls that Satyaga mentioned. For those of you online, use our website to offer suggestions and to join the mailing list. After the program, we invite all of you to attend an informal reception in the parish hall, which is through the door to my right. Our speakers today are Hadley Bates, Ava Cronin, and Clara Wilsher. Each of them graduated from ConVal High School here in Peterborough this past June. They distinguished themselves in high school by taking the most challenging classes, immersing themselves in clubs and the arts, playing sports, and volunteering in service to others. Full disclosure, each of them was enrolled in my AP US History class in 2025. As you know, I am a teacher at ConVal, and these three young women are representative of the many outstanding students we have at ConVal. And I and my fellow teachers take great joy in working with those students. You won't be surprised to hear that each of these young women stood out for their diligence, their curiosity, and their critical thinking. They were a joy to work with, and I know I speak for my fellow teachers, we are all immensely proud of you. While they think about the world in their own ways, Hadley, Clara, and Ava are similar in that they are students who ask questions, share their ideas, visit with their teachers after class, and hold their own thinking to the highest standard. Also in common, when they think about the world, they share a deep concern for the needs of others and for their role in the world. As Satyagat described, in early 2025, I was speaking with him about having young people speak at the Lyceum. The Lyceum committee asked ConVal students to submit a short sample of what they might say, and the committee watched those short speeches and decided to invite all three of these young women to speak. Ava, Hadley, and Clara know that they cannot speak for all young people today. This humility is part of what makes them so special. They know that each person has their own experience. By sharing their experience, they hope that you can become more knowledgeable about and more curious about what it means to be an adolescent in the world today. You will now hear from Clara Wilsher, Ava Cronin, and Hadley Bates.
Hello, my name is Clara, and I'm 18 years old. In 2 weeks, I will be at Smith College, playing on their soccer team and attending school there. Today, I get the opportunity to share my experience with you. What is it like to be an adolescent in 2026? I will talk about technology, advocacy, global crisis, efficiency, and mental health. So, a bit about me. I plan to study education, philosophy, and environmental science in college. During high school, I took a careers in education course. This past school year, we read and discussed in depth The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. As an aspiring teacher, I was, as we all were, both enlightened and deeply saddened by this novel. Haidt explains that the rise in anxiety, depression, and self-harm is found in adolescents internationally. He then presents the question, what happened to young people in the early 2010s that triggered this surge of anxiety and depression around 2012? And to explain, he offers two stories. The first is about the decline of the play-based childhood. According to Haidt, children became deprived of the chance to explore, test and expand their limits, build friendships through close adventures, and learn how to judge risks for themselves. The second story that he presents is the rise of the phone-based childhood, which accelerated in the early 2010s. This is when adolescents traded in their flip phones for smartphones. He states that we ended up overprotecting children in the real world while underprotecting them in the virtual world. One of the worst video games out there is called Grand Theft Auto. It has violent themes of nudity, profanity, crime, gambling, drugs, and even more. There is an age limit, but like social media, it's very easy to bypass. Many parents let their kids play this game, unaware of the impact that it is having on them. Technology can also be harmful in other ways. Many teenagers today are viewed as lazy, but many aren't lazy. They're addicted. They need support, not condescendence. Now, my first personal handheld piece of technology was a tablet that I received when I was in 6th grade. I had a screen time limit, and I was very grateful for the time that I got on it. Whereas my younger sister got a tablet when she was only 4 years old. And I'll admit, when I was younger and had to turn off the TV for dinner, sure, I'd be sad. But my sister, she would throw a fit, screaming, crying, completely out of control. Was this the start of an addiction for her? And with the rise of this technology addiction, also came the rise of mental health struggles in adolescents. According to a 2023 Pew Research Center survey, 95% of teens ages 13 to 17 are on the internet daily. And as internet usage has surged, social media platforms have grown, changing the way that adolescents interact with their peers and view themselves. It's pretty easy to see how social media lowers the self-confidence of many. Now, more than ever before, adolescents are constantly comparing themselves to others. For some, seeing others only post the best moments of their life may evoke jealousy of that seemingly perfect life, or their seemingly perfect looks, but little does the viewer know that they use Photoshop. For me, I'll admit, Instagram is like an addiction. I always have the urge to open it, and I know what will happen if I do. My mood will change for the worse, and I'll start to feel bad about myself. I grew up playing soccer, practicing for hours every single day by myself, and dreaming pretty big. And whenever I open Instagram, and I mean almost every single time, I will see others who have committed Division I or are playing professional soccer. And I'll feel so bad about myself, even though I was so happy about where I was 5 minutes ago, and proud of the work I put in to get there. So why do I keep opening it? It feels a bit out of my control. Something else that has always felt out of my control was advocacy. I have concluded why I believe that many adolescents hold a negative view of authority figures, as well as them feeling like being the cause of positive change is impossible. Adolescents are constantly exposed to negative, disheartening news. But when my parents were adolescents, for my mom the early 70s and my dad the early 80s, they received their news differently, usually through watching the news with their families or reading the newspaper. This way, they would receive the full story. They'd be shown both the negative and positive updates in the world. Now, social media algorithms are designed to show you content that you are most likely to interact with. Negative news tends to evoke a stronger emotional response, with more people liking the post, leaving comments, and sharing it. And as humans, we are wired to pay more attention to threats than to positive news, meaning that negative headlines are likely more memorable than positive ones. Unaware of this, I was presented, and still am, with negative news every day. The state of the world just began to seem inevitable to me and hopeless. As adolescents in 2026, many of us receive our news through social media. And constantly being made aware of the negative causes many to just feel disheartened. And I believe that a big cause of stress in adolescence is feeling as if you have no control over the big decisions being made, as you cannot yet vote. According to the National Library of Medicine, one study found that over 50% of adolescents have anxiety of at least one political issue, with the environment and gun violence being the two with the highest concerns. Another part of society that we don't have any control over is our constant search for efficiency. How can we always be the most productive? This affects all of us. As an adolescent, we are growing up in a world where we are losing what makes us uniquely human. I always feel so guilty for relaxing. I'm always thinking, what can I do to be more productive? This past school year, when I was tired and would fall asleep doing homework, I was so mad at myself for, in my view, being lazy. I first became aware of this efficiency-driven society we live in, thanks to the work of sociologist and philosopher Jacques Ellul. I learned about him at Revolution Ethics, a weekly seminar about philosophy, religion, and ethics held by Eric Bowman. When I began going halfway through my junior year, I realized how much I love to learn, how I truly enjoy it, how the experience changes when you're not just doing it for a grade. And sadly, the school system now pushes many kids to obsess over grades, while not also teaching them to love to learn. I am so grateful to Mr. Bowman for opening up my mind, and I want other adolescents to get the same opportunity that I did. Now, I believe it is also important for me to touch on something that I don't know much about, and that is adolescents who live differently than I do. For example, adolescents all over the world are affected by global crisis. Take climate change, for example. While it may make me feel small and hopeless, young teens in South Sudan are struggling to eat due to flooding. This is just one example of many countries and many people affected by global crisis. Being an adolescent who is struggling to survive due to global crisis means growing up with no other view of this world. Instead of dreaming, they're just looking to survive until the next day due to problems that they had no part in causing. And since they had no role in creating it, they likely feel that they have very little power to change it. So they need to be empowered and given the chance to make a difference. It is very hard trying to change systems that have been in place for hundreds of years. Now, I'm also filled with hope for the future. I am inspired by author Jonathan Haidt, who at the end of his book, The Anxious Generation, offers a path forward. He believes that if we work together, change is possible. He proposes no phones before high school, no social media before 16, phone-free schools, and more independence and free play for children. But this only works if we, as a community and society, unite and make this change together. Many adolescents today feel isolated in our modern society. One of my favorite philosophers, Simone Weil, says that being rooted in a community is a vital part of the human soul. We, as a society, have a responsibility to provide a strong community for adolescents. And we also have to find a way to empower adolescents, giving them solutions and hope for the future. This past week, I attended a Youth Climate Connections retreat, which was all started because of the dedication of one high school student years ago. All of the teens there are change makers in their own communities. They were truly the most passionate and inspiring people I have ever had an opportunity to be around. Here's a quote from a theologian, Howard Thurman. Don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do it. Because what the world needs is more people who have come alive. Adolescents need the encouragement, support, and opportunity to come alive. And then they, and the world we live in, will thrive. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to start and say thank you so much for giving us your time to come and listen to me and my peers this morning. My name is Ava Cronin, and I couldn't be more grateful to grow up in the generation I call my own. In just a few weeks, I'll be headed to Penn State to study mechanical engineering. But before I begin this next chapter, it felt important to me to share a glimpse inside my generation's perspective. It is my pleasure to speak with you today on the topic, what is it like to be an adolescent today? In full honesty, my credentials for this speech don't surpass my age. I'm an adolescent growing up in today's ever-changing society. Every generation has faced its own challenges. Previous generations dealt with wars, economic recessions, social change, and uncertainty about the future. Those struggles take an even more vibrant form in today's generation. Technology evolves almost daily. The economy is constantly changing, and education is becoming increasingly expensive. And we are expected to make life-changing decisions before we've even finished school. Being an adolescent today means standing at the edge of adulthood while trying to navigate a future that often feels very uncertain. The negativity perpetuated on our generation can be incredibly overbearing. From my experience, I believe much of this negativity stems from misunderstanding, unrealistic expectations, and the tendency to judge our generation based on stereotypes rather than our actions. When I first started working on this speech, I decided to ask a few adults what they thought about my generation: teachers, community members, coworkers. I expected to hear a balance of strengths and weaknesses. Instead, almost every response focused on what they believed we lacked. They described a generation as untitled, glued to our phones, overly sensitive, and unmotivated. I'll be honest, I left those conversations feeling incredibly discouraged. It was difficult to hear so many people dismiss an entire generation when I think about the classmates who stay up late studying, the friends who work after school to support their families, and the young people who volunteer, lead clubs, and genuinely care about making a difference. The generation they described wasn't the one I knew. Those conversations made me realize how easily stereotypes can overshadow our reality. Too often, it feels like we're expected to fail before we've even given the chance to succeed, as if our potential is judged before our characters or our actions. But I refuse to let those opinions define us. Instead, I believe we have the opportunity to change the narrative, not through arguments, but through the way we live, work, and treat others. I believe our generation has the resilience, the determination, and the compassion to leave a lasting impact. And I hope we'll be remembered not for the stereotypes placed on us, but for the difference we choose to make. Every challenge has a positive side, every obstacle has the potential to build resilience, and every uncertainty creates an opportunity for growth. This perspective is especially important as we face today's greatest concerns: economic instability. For many of us, the future doesn't just seem uncertain, it seems expensive. Every day we hear about inflation, rising grocery prices, increasing rent, and housing costs that continue to climb faster than the wages. Many of us wonder, will we ever be able to afford a home, support a family, or even live independently? These worries no longer begin after graduation. They begin in the classroom. Adding to this uncertainty is the ever-changing job market. Artificial intelligence, automation, and the technological advancements are transforming industries at an incredible pace. Some careers are disappearing while entirely new professions are emerging. Many of us feel the pressure to choose the right career before we even know who we are as individuals. We worry that the jobs we train for today might not even exist in 20 years, making it difficult to feel confident in what we're choosing and what we are passionate about. As someone who is interested in being an engineer, I think about this uncertainty very often. It doesn't seem half as straightforward as it used to. Engineering has always been a field driven by innovation. But with AI becoming incredibly more capable every year, even engineering careers are evolving. Instead of wondering whether technology will replace engineers, I find myself thinking about how engineers need to work alongside AI, continuously learn new skills, and adapt to new tools throughout their careers. While that can feel intimidating, it also makes the field exciting, because there will always be new challenges to solve and new technologies to create. However, the uncertainty can always feel overwhelming. The main thing I'm realizing is that no one really has the perfect answer right now. Everything is changing so quickly, and the best thing we can do is stay flexible and keep learning as we go, as a generation. Although the job market is more competitive, it is also more flexible and more innovative than ever before. We are entering a world where success is no longer limited to just traditional career paths. We can build businesses online, freelance from almost anywhere, work remotely for companies across the globe, or create careers in industries such as renewable energy, cybersecurity, software development, artificial intelligence, and content creation. Many of these careers didn't even exist when my parents were adolescents. Technology has also made learning new skills easier than ever. We can watch free lectures, earn professional certificates online, practice graphic design, or even start a small business using resources available online. Rather than simply preparing for existing jobs, we have the opportunity to create entirely new careers. Another major issue affecting us is the rising cost of education. For decades, we've been told that higher education is the pathway to success. While education remains incredibly valuable, the financial cost has been a growing concern. Many of us wonder about accumulating years of student debt before we've even begun earning a full-time income. Instead of focusing solely on our passions, we often must consider whether our chosen career will allow us to repay the loans that we may need to pursue it. This financial pressure can make adulthood seem intimidating before it has even begun. In 2025, the average student loan borrower in the United States owed around $39,175 in unpaid debt. To put that into perspective, adjusted for inflation, that's roughly $11,000 in 1980. Back then, the average annual cost of tuition and fees at a public in-state university was just $804. In other words, the amount of debt the average graduate carries today would have been enough to pay nearly 14 years of college in 1980. But instead, the same amount of debt often represents the cost of earning just one degree. Yet there is a positive side to this story. Education has never been more accessible than it is today. We now have more choices than previous generations ever imagined. University is no longer the only path to success. Community colleges, apprenticeships, trade schools, online degrees, vocational trainings, and professional certificates are all valuable alternatives to your traditional four-year degree. Scholarships and financial aid programs continue to expand, making higher education more accessible than ever before. Around the world, governments and educational institutions are also continuing conversations about reducing tuition costs and providing student debt relief because they recognize doors should be open rather than closed for people to receive their education. Perhaps our greatest advantage as a generation is choice. Success no longer focuses one career path. We can choose the educational route that best suits our goals, interests, and financial circumstances. Beyond economics and education, our lives are also shaped by social media. Unlike previous generations, we don't simply leave school at the end of the day. Schools, friendships, trends, and social expectations follow us home through our phones. Social media can create constant comparison. Perfectly edited photos, carefully selected highlights, and unrealistic beauty standards often make us feel like everyone's lives are better than our own. It becomes easy to compare our everyday lives with someone else's best moments. Cyberbullying can spread further and faster than traditional bullying ever could, leaving many of us feeling very isolated. However, social media is not entirely negative. It has connected millions of people who might not have met otherwise. We can share our creativity, learn new skills, discover educational content, and connect with communities that support our interests and identities. Whether we're passionate about music, science, art, or environmental activism, we can instantly find others who share the same passions. The same technology that spreads connection can also spread inspiration, encouragement, and positive change. Mental health has also been one of the defining issues of adolescence today. Academic expectations, financial concerns, global events, social pressures, and constant online connection contribute to the increasing levels of stress and anxiety for many people in our generation. We often feel pressured to achieve excellent grades, participate in extracurriculars, prepare for future careers, maintain friendships, and still somehow appear confident and successful online. That is an enormous amount to ask of anyone. Fortunately, there has also been significant progress in mental health. Previous generations often viewed mental health as something people avoided discussing. Today, our schools, families, and communities are becoming much more open about emotional well-being. Seeking support is increasingly recognized as a sign of courage rather than weakness. Counselors, psychologists, well-being programs, and mental health education are becoming more available, helping us develop healthier ways to manage stress and build resilience. Together, we are creating a future where emotional health is valued just as much as academic or physical achievement. Technology itself presents another challenge. The rapid development of technology means that the world changes faster than ever before. New inventions appear almost daily, and keeping up with those changes can feel exhausting. Yet technology is also one of the greatest advantages we possess. We have access to more knowledge than any generation in history. We can learn with anything with just a few clicks, communicate with experts around the world, collaborate on international projects, and use technology to solve problems in ways that were once impossible. Rather than fearing change, we are learning how to adapt to it. That adaptability may become one of the most valuable skills of the future. So, what is it really like being an adolescent today? It means growing up in time of economic uncertainty while also living in an age of extraordinary innovation. It means worrying about future employment while also discovering careers that previous generations never imagined. It means facing the rising costs of education while benefiting from learning opportunities that weren't there before. It means experiencing the pressures of social media while also having the ability to build meaningful connections across the world. Every generation has faced its obstacles, but every generation has also discovered new opportunities. We are proving that we can learn, adapt, and lead despite the uncertainty surrounding us. We are not simply preparing for tomorrow's world. We are already helping to shape it. As we continue to discuss what it means to be an adolescent today, perhaps we should stop asking whether our generation has had it easier or harder than those before us. Instead, we should recognize that we face different challenges and different opportunities. The future we are inheriting may be uncertain, but it is also full of possibility. And if we continue to meet every challenge with resilience, curiosity, compassion, and determination, then there is every reason to believe that the future we create will be brighter than any of us can imagine. Thank you for your time.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to my peers and me this morning. My name is Hadley Bates. I'm a recent graduate of ConVal High School and will be attending the College of the Holy Cross in a brief few weeks. I plan to study English and political science with a minor in rhetoric and composition. I'm very excited to discuss a topic that is so relevant to my life and those around me. One of the most important issues I would like to explore is the role that technology and social media have on teenagers. I also think the extreme academic pressure that students face is worth addressing. Now you ask, what is it like to be an adolescent in 2026? I would like to first acknowledge how confusing this time period can be for so many young people. The transition from childhood to adulthood encompasses growing responsibilities, independence, changing social scenes, and greater pressure. While children in elementary and middle school are heavily supported by their parents, peers, and teachers through almost every aspect of their life, high school students are suddenly expected to take on a new wave of responsibilities and roles in their lives. This change can be abrupt for many, and maybe even startling, as it was especially for me. I think this period is even harder for adolescents with the rapid growth of technology. While daily conversations, face-to-face interactions, and phone calls used to guide social life, social media has largely taken over as a gateway to connection with others. Unfortunately, social media has become more than an optional means of communication, but an expectation in daily life. It is the fundamental driving force in the decisions that people make every day. In my opinion, one of the biggest issues social media presents is a lack of free thinking. The conversations I have had with many of my peers have been so clearly guided by technology. I've noticed that many of their ideas do not stem from their own thoughts, but merely through something they saw on TikTok. Thus, as I see it, technology is very much an impediment to creativity and originality. Insidious ideas are perpetually infiltrating teenagers' minds through social media, as they are encouraged to conform to the beliefs they see on the internet. Suddenly, the conventions presented on social media platforms have become what individuals strive for. Their thoughts become those of the 30-second TikTok that consume them, their worth built on likes, their own understanding of the real world built on a fictional trap. Social media has become a means of constant comparison for individuals, as their standards become based merely on a social media influencer or even the perfect life created by a friend. And with the rapid growth of artificial intelligence, it has only become harder to determine fact from fiction. Teenagers are constantly exposed to misinformation, whether that be through a simple photo edit or absurd false news, to highly consequential media completely developed by AI. I've witnessed social media consume my peers, my friends, and even my younger cousins. Even those that understand the dangers of social media struggle with this extreme temptation in their lives. I have friends that send constant alarms, install lock settings to limit their usage, and even download social media on their tablets rather than their phones, yet still admit to spending hours doom scrolling every night. Brain rot has simply become a joke among teenagers, a 5-hour daily screen time average, another thing to laugh about. Teenagers are struggling to understand the impact that their devices are constantly having in their lives. Most notably, teens' interactions with others have been significantly impeded. It has become harder for teenagers to keep a conversation and really look someone in the eye when talking to them. Technology has begun to replace deep connection with others. I can't recall the last hangout or sleepover where people didn't scroll on their phones. In some cases, it's become a bonding activity, laughing at funny videos together. But in many cases, my friends will all just silently sit together, absorbed by the devices in their hands. Many of my peers claim that social media allows them to relax at the end of the day. And I'll admit, I've used this exact same excuse many times to my parents. But in reality, technology is only further stimulating. Through the consumption of short, exhilarating videos that are simply scrolled across in less than 5 seconds, teenagers are suffering from lower attention spans and greater difficulty concentrating on tasks. Most people understand the negative effects of social media to some degree, but it has become so addictive that it is hard to stop. On the other hand, those who don't have social media often feel distance. I don't have TikTok, Snapchat, and most social media platforms, and I felt out of touch with my peers as a result. I do not know the trends nor the funny memes. Either I'm standing on the sidelines while my friends record a TikTok dance that I do not know, or I'm just silently smiling while they burst into a laughter about a joke one would only understand if they saw it on social media. When I feel behind on my friends' lives, I go on Instagram, which is the only social media platform I have, to see what they are up to. But time and time again, I just catch myself comparing myself to others, and ultimately feel flawed and lesser than. And there's almost always a party posted at which I wasn't invited. While I'll open that app for a laugh or a means of distraction, I'll almost always leave defeated, anxious, or sad. I often try to think about the root cause of this issue, the reason why I go back on my phone after it makes me feel so awful, why my friends spend hours scrolling yet gain nothing out of it. And oddly enough, I think much of it stems from increasing societal pressures particularly around academics. Society has this distorted, stereotypical perspective of teenagers, especially as movies depict us as lazy, selfish, and careless. Yet I have found that, generally speaking, this couldn't be further from the truth. On an average day, the majority of my friends are working after school, attending a club meeting, going to a sports practice, and then completing homework. This is on top of chores, driving their siblings, and taking care of their family members. And this is all after a 7-hour school day of nonstop tests, projects, and notes. I've talked to so many friends about the struggle to balance personal responsibilities, school, and sports. It can feel absolutely overwhelming. For instance, my senior year entailed waking up at 6:30 every morning, attending school from 7:30 to 2:30, getting help after school with teachers until 3, doing homework for 2 hours, going to dance for 4 hours, and then completing more homework until 12 or even 12:30. The demanding schedule of an average high school student, in conjunction with immense pressure to excel in academics, can easily lead to burnout. There's a constant drive for perfect grades, extracurricular excellence, and superiority in sports. On top of this, there's pressure to take part in all the high school events, including parties, football games, and school dances. In itself, the extreme competition in the college application process could drive one to their limit. I often feel that no matter what I do, it will never be enough. And my friends have expressed similar feelings. Every aspect of our lives is demanding, as people are always asking for more. To pick up another shift, to join another club, to show up at an additional meeting, to complete another assignment, to study for another test, to apply to the next college. The focus so quickly becomes on the next game, the next performance, the next test, the next college application. It's no wonder that adolescents struggle so much to live in this moment. And I think this immense pressure just accumulates for so many students that it causes them to give up. Maybe they make poor choices by abusing substances, skipping school, or scrolling for hours on social media. It's unfortunate, but so many issues just arise from this extreme pressure to strive for more because nothing is ever enough. Despite these growing issues in the modern world, it would be ungrateful for me not to also elaborate on the countless positives. First, I think adolescents are coming to recognize the considerable power of intelligence, drive, and hard work. In the past, there was more stigma around being a teacher's pet, nerd, or bookworm, while people now often embrace and celebrate others' wisdom, academic achievement, and diverse passions. There is also a greater emphasis on voicing one's opinions and expressing one's beliefs, which I believe is imperative when done in a respectful manner. In general, adolescents are much more vocal. But while mental health issues are exponentially increasing, so too is awareness surrounding it. Many of my friends are very open to expressing their worries and struggles. While it still comes unnaturally, I think we've made tremendous progress in this regard. At my high school, mental health awareness was a recurring point of discussion through organizations like Hope Squad and Break the Stigma, in addition to school-run events such as the Break the Silence 5K run. Greater political awareness is also a common theme of this decade. Inevitably, the current polarity between parties has brought about heightened interest in political affairs, especially in teenagers. While the cause of this increase in knowledge is unfortunate, I'm truly astonished by how much my peers know about the government. I really think this is important for the future, so I commend them for this. In general, my peers serve as a constant source of inspiration in my life. They have astounded me with their unrelenting dedication to school, sports, volunteering, and the arts. They show strong character not because they are looking for that gold star, but because they truly care about others and the greater good of humanity. I'm continuously amazed by their intelligence, creativity, and passion. Efforts range from combating climate change to saving sea turtles, from flying planes to pursuing artistic masterpieces. I've come to realize not just the unique contributions that they have on the community, but also the tremendous potential that they have in their future. I look forward to witnessing the remarkable impact that they will have on the world. So despite the immense pressure that students face and the growing distance caused by social media, I think it is important to recognize the considerable potential that their futures hold. I've witnessed my peers develop into who they truly are in their high school years, whether that be the leader in the classroom, the football star, or the friend that makes everyone laugh. They've begun really piecing together their values, their morals, and who they want to spend their time with. High school is the environment at which people really develop their passions and personalities and beginning standing up for the issues that are truly important to them. It's an individual's opportunity to set themselves apart from the crowd. So really, what is it like to be an adolescent in 2026? It is a chance to differentiate oneself like no other. While one may waste their energy scrolling through social media, it is another's moment to be stronger and more disciplined, changing the world for the better. There are severe, persisting issues that cannot be escaped in the current decade. Yet framed in a different manner, these are merely hurdles one has to overcome to achieve their greatest potential, to become a shining star in a sea of dark screens. Thank you.
Thank you, Hadley, Ava, Clara, for your insights, for your, as an experienced person in this world today, experienced in the way that most of us are not. We have some time for questions. I see a lot of you already know what to do, holding up the yellow cards. For those of you watching virtually, you may continue to submit your questions by using the live chat section in YouTube. While the ushers circulate to collect the yellow cards, let me begin. Come on up. All right. Now's my chance to ask you some questions. I'll ask one to get us started. You're all really busy. It's Sunday. You could have been home. You didn't have to do this today. And I think a lot of us are curious why, when given this opportunity, why did you say yes? Why were you interested in speaking today?
Yeah, I can totally start. I'm very interested in public speaking. I'm looking to possibly pursue that in college. So I thought this was a great way to get to practice that, and I was really looking forward to get to know everyone today and get to voice my opinions and get to hear about what my peers had to say about this topic.
I was just really thrilled by the opportunity because I know the Lyceum attracts kind of an older audience. So I thought it was good to kind of bridge the gap. I thought it was good to kind of bridge the gap and give you guys a better insight into our generation and just communicate what we're feeling to you guys and just bridge that gap.
Yeah, I think there's a big gap between generations, and I just think a way to fill that is simply understanding each other. And so I'm really grateful I got the opportunity to work on a speech and to just really help you guys understand our generation. And it means a lot that you all came here because you want to understand.
Thank you. I have about 24 questions to curate through, so if your question does not get asked, I apologize. We have limited time. But this one's adorable. Do you have any suggestions for how a grandparent can connect with and support a teenager in today's digital world? Asking for a friend.
So at my retreat this past week, something that really struck me was just being outdoors in nature and just how grounding it really felt. And I just think Sometimes teenagers need that little nudge to get off their phone and just go outside, get off of it. It is a little bit like an addiction, and it will feel a lot better once they go outside. And I know that this week really changed me in a way. It really grounded me, really showed me what it was like to be off my phone. So I think just helping them would be really awesome.
Yeah, I would definitely say what Clara said. Like, I think it's great to get outside in nature. I also think just sometimes, like, talking to my grandparents, I know it doesn't always have to be like a big event or anything. I just really like spending time with them. So I don't think there doesn't have to be like this tension about what do I have to do? Like, just sometimes just talking to your grandchildren. I feel like that's a really important one. I love talking to my grandparents.
Okay, I got a really concrete question. This came up a couple of times. How has the cell phone ban at ConVal been a positive policy, or has it been a positive policy? Feedback on the banning of cell phones bell to bell in your last year of high school?
I think it did help a bit with, students actually talking to each other. But I also think that there were a lot of ways around it. There were many ways to sneak your phone in, keep it in your pocket, go use it in the bathroom. There were many ways to keep it. And I just think a big part of changing this for the better is just education. I think a bunch of adolescents don't know what their phones are doing to them. I think a lot of adults don't know what their phones are doing to their kids when they give it to them, when they're letting them play video games, TV for hours a day. I don't think it's anyone's fault, but I think we just need that education so students want to be off their phone. Because the reality is, unless they want to be off their phone, they're not going to be off their phone. And so they need some help, I think, with that.
Even if the cell phone ban at ConVal wasn't perfect, I think it definitely improved a lot. Like, people did have more face-to-face conversations, and it wasn't as big of a distraction because there was an active effort by teachers to keep kids off their phones. And even if, okay, you snuck your phone to text your parents between classes, it's okay, and things like that. Like, it wasn't perfect and it wasn't soundproof, but I think it definitely helped for what it was.
Great, thank you. I think I have two that I'm going to put together here. What do? You talked a lot about stress and the many, many things you have to do. Some people are curious, what do you do to relax? What helps you to decompress and maybe separate from all the stresses?
Yes, I would say I'm usually a very stressed person. Definitely can't really think of a time I haven't been stressed in a while, but something that definitely helps me is just grounding myself, just being outside. I really like going on hikes, and I really like exercising, going for runs, going to the gym, playing soccer. Being active for me definitely helps me. It reminds me that there are things more important than myself, and I'm pretty small in this huge world. And there's a lot of things out there to focus on, and sometimes we get so caught up in ourselves. And I think it's just really important to be out in nature and just remember how small you are sometimes.
And then a follow-up that is a more specific question that's related. A lot of us adults face many of the same challenges that you're describing, social media included. Anything that has worked for you? Any advice that you would give to us older people?
I think taking a step back from a lot of things has always been like a tried and true method. If something is stressing you out to a point where it's just blocking you from being productive, just take a step back and do something completely different and not thinking about that. Social media can be such like a rabbit hole, and you can keep diving into things. So just getting off of it and taking a moment, turning everything off can be very, very helpful. I really like to read. That's kind of what I do when I need a break from social media. It takes me into a different format in a different world for a second, so I can just really focus on that instead of focusing on the things that are causing me stress.
I swear to God, this is not my question. It's not even my handwriting. If there were one thing your teachers could do to help make your high school experience better or more sane, give us some ideas.
I'm saying this honestly. I think if they could just be more like you, Mr. Bowman. I am saying this honestly, and there were classes this year where students would be on their phones, and your class this year was the only class I had where no one was ever on their phone, and that's because of the teacher you are, and that's because everyone was so invested in what we were learning. Everyone came in truly wanting to learn, and I just think really teachers just pushing that. They have to share their love of learning with us. Not just handing out worksheets, but truly immersing themselves, immersing us, giving us projects that really make us think. And, yeah.
All the teachers I had this year were really great, so I thank them. But I also think it's hard giving advice to teachers because it's not necessarily always up to them. No matter how interactive your lesson is, no matter how hard you try, sometimes people aren't going to be paying attention. And that's hard, but it's also a reality. So I think trying to keep students as engaged as possible, but also kind of congratulating the students who are engaged and focusing on them can kind of give students who aren't like a little bit of a sense of FOMO and trying to get more involved. So I think just keep on keeping on, and if people aren't listening, sometimes you can't push everybody in line, so just moving past it, honestly.
I also think my favorite teachers have been so passionate about everything that they've been teaching, and I think that helps a lot. I have Mr. Fetro, Mr. Bowman, Mr. Wenzel, they're all standing around the classroom, moving around, waving their hands around, and they're very energetic, and I think that makes it more of an experience that people really want to be there. They want to show up because they know that support exists in the classroom, and that I'm just excited to be there, to see them so excited about what they're teaching, and I think that makes a big difference.
Ava, if you don't mind, I think there's someone in the audience who heard you say FOMO, and I don't know if they know what that means.
FOMO is a fear of missing out. It's
And how does that affect you?
Me for
Or
FOMO?
anybody. How does that affect someone?
Yeah, totally. I think social media also is a great sideline to this. When you see other people doing something that is more fun than whatever you're doing, or you think their life is better than yours, you can kind of be like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing enough, or I really want to be involved in that. So I think there's good and bad aspects to it because it can make you really passionate about something and want to get involved, but it can make you feel kind of down about yourself. So focusing on being positive when you kind of feel like you're missing out on something can be a really good motivator instead of a deterrent for getting involved.
Thank you. I have a number of questions that have to do with the political situation, so I'm going to kind of put things together a little bit. So, specific political issue, have the ongoing education funding lawsuits had any effect on you or colored your time in public school? And or do you even know that there are ongoing education funding issues? Yeah. I don't mean that in a patronizing way. I mean, does it just not reach your radar is kind of what I mean.
It definitely has reached my radar. For a while, I've wanted to be a teacher when I grow up, and definitely, wanting to go to college and pursue that. Of course, learning that, funding has been going away, and which honestly comes with it, which people just appreciating teachers less, has been a big stressor for me. It has made me almost reconsider what I want to do. That and just, how misunderstood I think teachers are. So that definitely has been a big stressor for me. I am very involved politically, and I definitely keep up to date on that stuff.
Okay, good, thank you. Let's see, how do I want to ask this? Okay, do you think it's important to get involved in politics personally or as a generation? How do you perceive your generation's involvement in politics? Is politics something that's on your radar, important to you, or are we in a post-political world? I tried to put like 3 or 4 together there.
Yeah, it's gonna be, I have so many thoughts, it'd be kind of hard to gather them, but I definitely think it's important to be involved politically. I think especially right now, it can be really hard to keep up with it, and that's for adolescents and adults. I know that I've started tuning in a little bit less, just because the bad news every single day has started to make me feel pretty down, pretty helpless, to be honest. But I definitely think it's important to know what's going on in the world. I think it's also important to know the positive updates in the world. And I definitely think that just, pushing critical thinking is just a big part of this. And I just really hope that our generation, really starts to think for themselves. And I think it's really important to especially know where your news is coming from. Nowadays, it's so many things on social media are fake that you see, and so many people repost them thinking they're real. There are so many fake news websites out there. So I think it's very hard to stay up to date with it now, but it's definitely very important.
I think I see a lot of political involvement in my generation, at least at like the presidential and the kind of overarching level of people being passionate about making a change and making a difference. I think people are very political. Like Clara said, it's very important that you're getting news from reputable sources, and more so learning your own opinion rather than letting yourself be influenced by kind of overarching opinions that can be really demeaning and really like overpowering to your own. So I think it's important to be political, but I'm also grateful that I think our generation is very political.
Can you speak to any, in what ways have you bumped up against, or worse, any gender bias in school or in the world that you navigate through?
I think, definitely it has gotten a lot better. I think there are a lot more opportunities for women. But definitely, being on social media, I see a lot of, you can't really get away from, the awful comments. I see a lot of sexist comments on things that I look at, which make me feel pretty down to know that people still think that. I do think that it's something we're always going to struggle with a bit. One time, I'm a ski instructor, and I work at Crouch Mountain. It's an awesome job, but one day, a little boy came in, and he wouldn't let me be his instructor because I was a girl. Yes. And he said that I didn't know how to ski like a boy did. And yeah, I know. And I ended up teaching him, we had a really great time. I think he changed his mind. So I think, yes, stuff still is going to come up, but I think we're capable of handling it. And I think it has gotten a lot better. So I'm really grateful for the woman who came before us and really helped pave the way to make it easier for our generation.
I definitely resonate with that because I'm going into engineering for college, and engineering has always been a male-dominated field, and it still very much is. But having the opportunity to explore that as a woman is obviously really great and something that a lot of people in the older generation didn't even think they could do. There's definitely still a gender gap in engineering. I think it's definitely a more male-dominated field, and I think with more inclusive programs that kind of push women into engineering and STEM in general, some people can dismiss the gender gap and be like, oh, well, there's so many programs helping women and doing this, and that's totally true, and they're amazing, but I do still think there's some steps to go to kind of make it a more even field and to allow women to feel comfortable in STEM fields rather than kind of the odd person out. But really, it's been much better than I expected going into kind of a male-dominated field, and it's been uplifting to see that you can like do whatever you put your mind to as a woman. So It's been really great.
Unfortunately, this will be our last question. I've got tons more, but sorry. With all the financial and academic pressures that you described, the high cost of higher education, what was the most compelling reason why you have chosen to enter college? And also, could you perhaps consider what you think to be the benefits of a gap year or two, and why, whether schools might do well to encourage such things?
I think being educated is very important, which was my motivation to really pursue college. I think seeking a higher education is something that should be accessible to everyone. It's really important to kind of find your path in life, and college can be so helpful for that. Not necessarily saying it's crucial, but it can be so helpful to find your place. But also on a more economic and stable level, a college degree specifically is so important to find a job now. Going into the job market without a college degree is so hard if you want a professional level career in kind of that traditional 9-to-5. You almost always need a college degree. So it's a push because I want to find higher education, but you also really need it for a career now.
I definitely think that a bit of a problem in schools now is definitely really pushing a career path. And I think gap year I think gap years are great, and I think it's a really good way to really find yourself. But the reason I'm going to a liberal arts school is so I can really just, learn critical thinking skills, learn how to be in the world, and not just be pushed into one career. And I think that's a reason why gap years are becoming increasingly popular, is because it's harder to go to college now when you don't know what you're going to do. And I definitely think the economic instability is pretty hard. I was trying to decide between colleges for, a month so long. When I first got my acceptance into Smith College, I was just overjoyed. I was really happy. But that was really quickly overshadowed when I got my financial aid letter. And I began to feel very, very stressed out. I began to question if I should be going to my dream school or if I should be going to a school that gave me more money. And my parents were great and ended up supporting me, and I was able to choose that school. But I'm still constantly filled with stress that I've made the wrong decision, that I'm going to be in debt for the rest of my life because I want to be a teacher. And I'm always thinking about what scholarships I can still apply for, and I think it's just always going to be a stress that's there, and it's pretty unfortunate, and it's something that we really do need to change because I want to be excited that I got in. I don't want it to be overshadowed by that stress and that guilt of making the choice I did.
Yeah, I'm personally really excited to go to college. So it's part of my reason to decide to pursue further education. I also just feel with the momentum that all of us kind of have going now, I think it helps. At least for me, I imagine that a gap year would work great for other people, especially as you're exploring new places and probably yourself. But for me, I think just having this momentum that I just graduated high school, and then going to pursue college, I think it just helps to have that same structure in my life. I also think college is important for developing who you are. It's not just about, obviously, it's not about your grades. It's not about being in all these clubs, but also just developing the person that you are, because you're going to dorm with other people. You're gonna you're gonna experience hopefully what your life will be after that, or have at least a greater idea about the adult world. And I think that can be the transition period for a lot of people, which I think is important.
Great. Thank you. I have 3 more things to wrap this up. And the most important is to say thank you again to Hadley, Ava, and Clara. Thank you for sharing your time and your expertise and your Sunday with us. We hope all of you enjoyed today's talk. Thank you again for your support for the 2026 season. Please join us for refreshments in the parish hall and let them know how much you appreciated their talk. And please join us next week when the Lyceum speaker will be former NHPR host Laura Conoy with introductory music by Volkert Volkerts and Ezra Landis. Thank you all very much.